Your Fitness Business Podcast Snapshot. Key updates in membership terms and conditions, revamping the waiver, the legality of posting photos and videos of members, and laws around email and text marketing. All of that and more coming up in today's episode. You're listening to the fitness industry's leading fitness business podcast for owners and managers, where each week we provide an educational platform for our listeners. Our guests come from all around the world to share their expert advice, tips, and knowledge with you, the FBP family. This month's interviews are brought to you by One Fit Stop. Thank you for joining me, your host, Dory Nugent, for another amazing episode of the Fitness Business Podcast. You are listening to episode number 323. This is the second episode in our November series where our guests are encouraging us to look forward with a little guidance on how to be successful in 2021. But before we get started, here's a quick message from One Fit Stop.
One Fit Stop is modern fitness studio software built for the growing multi-location studio, providing scheduling, client management, programming, payment collection tools, and more that will set your business up to grow. To find out more, go to onefitstop.com or click on the link in today's show notes.
If you are a business owner, you know how important it is to have all legals in place. You have spent time and money making sure your business is protected and that you are prepared if something were to happen. But what if you're a new business owner or maybe you want to open a business? Do you know where to start? Does your member paperwork change with COVID? That is why attorney Rachel Brenke is our guest today. Rachel, the owner of Fit Legally, has come prepared to answer my questions about making sure your business is current with its legals for 2021. Plus, she's giving her best legal advice to make sure you are protected as well as your members. Let's get started, shall we? Rachel Brenke, welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast. I love the fact that this is your first time on the show. So welcome.
I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I was so cool. I was so excited when I saw your name come across my email. Of course, I do a little research. I looked up your background and I'm just going to, name a couple of super cool things here. First, just because, I love all things athletic. You're super athletic. I saw you were on Team USA in 2017 and 18. And am I pronouncing this right? Aquathlon?
Yes, it's swim and run. No bike.
Okay, no bike. I have to just tell you quickly, I read this because I also saw that you have been in the Ironman World Championships. You just do a lot of triathlons, and I've done one. And let me tell you something. The swimming, I never prayed so hard in my life. It was in the ocean. It was wicked. I had to turn to my back for a couple times and backstroke it. And let me tell you what, I had some come to Jesus talks out there in the middle of the ocean, but I survived. And, now I have to live up to everything I promised I would do when I was out there.
It, though. You're here and that's awesome. What's funny is that I'm a swimmer in high school and college. So the swimming is the easy part. I always get out of the water first. I even beat the men, but then I spend the rest of the race in Ironman or 140.6 miles. So I spend like 138 something miles with everyone passing me. It's a mental challenge.
Well, I'm the opposite. The bike, the run, bring it on. But the swimming, I don't know. I practiced, but it's not my strong suit. So.
We'll need to relay one. We should do like Ironman Florida and relay it together.
I'm in. I am in. Okay, so other hats that you wear, I'm just going to show off some of your talents. You are an attorney, of course. You're an entrepreneur. You're a podcast host. You're a business consultant. You're a mom to 5 kids, not 1 or 2, but 5. And I wish our viewers could see you. You're absolutely beautiful and stunning. They will definitely have to Google you and creep on you a little bit. You're absolutely stunning. So you're just the whole package. So this is just great. I'm so excited to have you here.
I am too. I love that always when people bring up the mom thing and then everyone tries to figure out mom, lawyer, triathlete. I'm like, but you don't understand. I do 140.6 miles because I only have to worry about myself. I don't have to wipe a nose, wipe a butt, or get any snacks. That's my me time because they can't catch me.
So why don't you, I'm going to turn the mic over to you. Why don't you tell us a little more of the details about, the professional and serious side about yourself?
Yeah, so I got into entrepreneurship. I kind of always knew that I wasn't going to fit in the 9-to-5, the cubicle farm. I mean, I never fit into regular school type environments. I did well. I would have done better if I had applied myself, but I just didn't feel challenged. And when I was diagnosed with cancer at age 20, I only had my oldest, who's now 15. My husband was in and out deployed. It was the beginning of the Iraq war. And I told myself, I was looking at my little toddler son sitting on the floor, and I was like, you know what? If I get through this, which I did, obviously, because I'm here, but I don't want to pad the pockets of someone else or fulfill somebody else's dreams. I have to make this. I just know I won't fit. And I've done corporate jobs in the process. I didn't, and I loved it in that I loved meeting people, but it wasn't fulfilling me. So from there, I kind of jumped online and tried to learn about running a business. You got to realize though, at the time, and I'm going to date myself a little bit, it was MySpace, right? With the autoplay music and the glitter coding background. We didn't have freemium information like we do now. We didn't really have podcasts. Blogging was really like a self-blog. Let me talk about my recipe, but it's not a monetized type of thing. So I really dug in, trying to build my business, waiting tables in evenings, cancer treatment during the day, all that good stuff. And I realized at the time that there was this great need that other moms were wanting to do the same thing as me. And so I did what any person and every entrepreneur, you can't tell, sarcasm a little bit here, should do, and went and paid to get an MBA, because you have to have an MBA to run a business. No. Take it from me. You definitely don't. But I did that. Also went to law school. If you guys listened to the quick fire questions from last week, I had mentioned that I wanted to do child sex crimes prosecution. And that's something really near and dear to my heart. And I thought I was going to do that, but I came out the other side of law school. I had already built a really good business consulting business. I was already helping a bunch of entrepreneurs do the legal side of things and the business strategy. I've always been really adept at that. I mean, even in elementary and middle school, my report card from the teachers would be like, Rachel talks a lot, and she's always telling me how I can adjust my filing system. I just am that type of evaluation. And so when I graduated law school, I struggled for a bit, thinking, I wanted to do good in the world. But at the time I had 3 babies and ended up with 5 in the end. But I couldn't really afford to go work public service as a prosecutor. I would have been basically passing it along to daycare at the time. And so I went full into running a law firm, which I still have, full into my consulting business and setting up legal niche sites. So I have one called The Law Talk for photographers, and then Fit Legally, which came later after I got into athletics. And that really was for my own self-care, losing weight and that kind of stuff. And that's pretty much what I'm doing now.
Well, we're glad that you are doing that now. And I have some questions that I know are out there. I know operators, gym owners, sales directors are asking and wondering. So we're going to get some answers to our questions. We're going to start with the first one. Trainers, studios, and clubs are now offering additional ways for members to train with them other than the traditional in-club model. Mm-hmm. There's, outdoor, online, virtual, on demand. Some are even doing it on Zoom. What are the key updates that need to be made in membership terms and conditions?
So actually, before I get into answering the question, I have to say how much I've enjoyed the silver lining. I get that it's pandemic. It's an awful time for a lot of people, but I'm trying to be optimistic at the things that are happening. And what I have been really encouraged by with a lot of my fitness clients is that they're doing this. They're offering other ways, because to be sustainable in entrepreneurship, you need to have multiple revenue streams, even if it's within the same business. So the whole online thing is very attractive to me. It's what I do. Now, but with that comes its own host of issues. So most of the time you have clubs and trainers in person. Y'all know, or should know, or hopefully you'll know by the end of this podcast, that you should have waivers to limit your liability, that the client is accepting the risk of the activity that they're doing. And then also if you're putting them into like a month-to-month or a long-term type contract, you're going to have those membership terms and conditions. Those are typically drafted in contemplation of in person. When you have online, you're starting to add multiple layers of things. Payments are probably happening online, receipt of private information. You're also not going to be there in person, whether it's you as like a trainer or having a coach or a trainer to do for you, to look at the client to see if they're doing whatever the activity is, right? If they're lifting weights properly, or if they're doing the yoga positions properly. So you're going to have even more enhanced liability by doing online. One would think that it's less liability, but I think it's a bit more. So when you're looking at your terms and conditions, you want to write in there even more beefed up disclaimers about the information you're providing to them, and also beefed up information. And again, by the way, this is going to depend on how your original membership terms and conditions and like disclaimers and waivers were written. But for the most part, I've seen that it's enhanced liability issues. We need enhanced language. Then also considering the fact that we're taking, like I said, payments and personal information online adds its own like cybersecurity risk as well.
So I guess what you're saying is, though, even though they're in their own home, they're still linked to the club, and the club is still liable because they're being directed by an employee of the club.
They could in a way. Yeah. And you know what? It kind of depends on the structure. I mean, like we're talking about this online model. I've seen it from a variety of ways, from just trainers are posting videos online and it's not live. I just would watch it at home and do it myself. There's live where I'm one-on-one with the trainer, and the trainer could see me and they'd be able to correct my posture or the way that I'm holding the bar or whatever activity I'm doing. So, there's a variety of ways. We just have to consider we really want to impress and have the client, the athlete, the one that's engaging your business, to ensure that they are accepting and assuming the risk of what they're doing, especially since somebody's not there to really say, hey, don't pull on the bar like that. You could really hurt yourself.
Okay. So waivers, you said waivers. That's like the big word right now.
It's the buzz phrase. I know.
Yeah. So do clubs need new waivers during COVID because of the virus? Do they need to talk about that in the waiver?
So I'm not a big fan of the term waiver, just because like you're waiving liability, you're waiving that you're going to do anything against the club. But in the reality, it's going to be fact specific. So on the regular athletic waiver side, as long as it's beefed up to contemplate the new changes of like online models, outdoor, et cetera, you should be good. As far as these COVID specific waivers, I'm one of those, and I think it's because I'm an entrepreneur and I would rather be focused on my own business versus the legal ick, even though I own a law firm, so like it's easier for me. I still don't want to deal with the legal ick. My recommendation is be conservative and use these COVID waivers. We're seeing it everywhere, from massage places to hairdressers. Everywhere is having us, agree that we haven't had a fever in the last 14 days, these symptoms, etc. But I think for these type of actions is also a way to inform your clients. These are our cleaning procedures. And back to what we mentioned before, now you're assuming the risk of entering into our facility or outside, even if we have done these cleaning actions, reduced capacity, we're meeting the government mandates. Now, that's the easy lawyer answer, I think, and that's what I suggest to all my clients. It doesn't hurt to have the waiver. It would hurt more to not have the waiver. And the other thing I like to look at waivers and contracts is they're formalizing a relationship. But when we're talking about the COVID-specific waivers, you're also using it as an education and confidence boosting tool with your members or the athletes or clients, whatever you want to call them, right? So, because for me, if I'm going to go to my gym, especially since I'm immunocompromised, I want to know what cleaning procedures you're doing. Like, what is your policies and procedures? And you could do that through this waiver. So I feel like you're kind of meeting multiple goals at one time, and you could just seamlessly put it into your workflow. It doesn't have to be like this crazy thing. Clients have to write it in blood, chisel in a stone. Like, it doesn't have to be a crazy thing. Just stick it in the workflow, have them sign it when they come in. They're assuming the risk. And I get it. There's the question of, can someone really sue you for catching COVID? Not unless like one of your employees knowingly showed up knowing they had COVID, or you made them stay and even though they had COVID. The likelihood's very small. But if I was your attorney and someone, because clients be crazy sometimes, if they try to have a claim against you, that's one of the first things that we'll point at. Hey, look, member, you signed this waiver. You knew the risks of coming into our facility.
Right. So very good information. Again, I know people in the industry, the operators and the owners are looking for answers to this. Let's talk about the client that joined the club 20 years ago that signed the waiver or the questionnaire of, checking off the boxes of their health issues and stuff. How often do we update those for those folks?
I love this question. I think this is why I'm different than most attorneys, is because I have the business strategy mindset. This is a way that you can cover yourself by finding out new health issues and also serve your customers at the same time. So by having them, maybe you can make it a value add as part of their year-long membership to do this free evaluation. You're just information gathering. You can then ask them questions about their health, what services they're actually taking part in, what services they like. It's a gold mine to just sit and listen. So you'd be able to target a few of these things. So yeah, I definitely would have a routine time that you're updating with your customers or your members. Doctors' offices do that all. I feel like they do it every time that we go in. They're asking if something has changed. We should kind of adopt the same process, maybe not as often, but using it for information gathering, and use that time to gather testimonials, find out what they're interested in, and also make sure that you're legally protected.
Yeah, like with the personal trainers, it's a little easier because they're with their clients. And, if somebody hurts their back or strains their knee, more than likely they see them maybe once a week at the least. And then they are going to be able to keep that information updated. It's the member that comes in that's either heading to Group X or they're heading to the equipment or the cardio area. And yeah, you have no idea if they developed a heart condition or not. So okay.
I'm snickering because like my triathlon coach, she knows when I get a sniffle. I'll text her, I'm not feeling so well. But that's because, I have lung disease, like I want to keep her on top of my symptoms so that we can also see how it fits with my level of exercising so that I don't burn out. But I think the same thing is like with your members. If you are a high capacity facility, it's very difficult to keep tabs. And I feel like and this is probably going down a bit more than you want to, but I think you could automate this. I mean, you can set up automated sequence flows that from when someone signs on, the flows run and check to see if they're an up-to-date member, and frequently ask them questions. And you can incentivize them for answering and updating their profile. Maybe they'll get some swag or a credit or something like that. That way you can get this information, because at the end of the day, even if you're having to give up a little swag or credit to like their membership or to a class or maybe a personal training session, whatever it is, it's going to save you a lot of money when it comes to having to clean up a legal issue later. I see it all the time, especially when like you were talking about these membership terms and conditions. I don't know how many fitness conferences pre-COVID, because we're obviously not speaking in person anymore right now. We're not having conferences, but I'll go to conferences to speak, and I see so many people, and by the way, if you're listening, I'm not shaming you. I'm not judging you. We've all started in one place, but I'm scared for you when I hear that you're running a CrossFit gym or bodybuilding or even just regular yoga, and you're not having clients sign documents and you don't have your business. See, like I told you my blood pressure's going up. Because I'm so scared for the potential liability issues that can happen, and waivers in documents are one of those biggest things. And if I am your attorney and something happens, the very first question I'm going to ask you is, what documentation do you have on file for this member?
So this brings me to the question that you might cringe when I ask you, but I feel like I need to ask it. how much leverage does that waiver have if it has to go to court?
I mean, it's going to depend all upon the circumstances. I mean, I kind of already gave away the mystery of how I feel about COVID waivers. I still think you should have them, but the likelihood of someone being able to sue you for getting COVID, meh. I do think that the waivers are really important depending on the activity that they're doing, right? That the member is doing, that they're signing on for, especially if they're in like a solo activity. So for me, let's say like in the beginning of my fitness journey, I was like 150 pounds overweight. I hadn't lifted weight since college, and I went into the weight room all by myself, and I was probably could have really hurt myself if I had really pushed it. And in that sort of circumstance, a waiver could have helped the facility. Also, circumstances. Did they have someone monitoring me? How many people were in the facility? So this is, you can't just look at it as, will this waiver save me? It's the waiver, the knowledge and what the member is accepting, as well as what supports do you have in place? Like how many people are monitoring the weight room or et cetera.
I get that. I like that. All right. We're going to shift gears now a little bit. I feel like we're beating the waiver and
but it's a good one.
It is a good one. And like I said, a lot of people are wanting to know. Privacy is a growing concern for clubs as we are all using, more photos and videos of members on our social media platforms. Mm-hmm. What is your suggestion to ensure we are all well protected in this area?
I love this question because it combines my different legal niche sites. So I do work in the fitness industry, obviously, but I also work really intimately with photographers as well. And these are big questions they have also. When you're taking photographs of your members, you need to have a release from them. And this isn't like a release of a waiver, I'm coming to the facility. It needs to be a release doing two things. One, giving permission for the use of their face. So especially if it's in marketing, I mean, this is probably a bit more important if it's like plastered on your website, billboard, etc. But we've seen issues even when it's just a passing photo on an Instagram story or Instagram feed image. So the first thing is getting permission from the client, because everyone has a privacy right. They have a property right in the use of their face in marketing. And that's what's happening if it's a commercial-based Instagram. So like Fit Legally has a Instagram feed where we put tips and photos, etc. It's mostly me and my dog. So if you like dogs, come check it out. He's awesome. But if I'm going to post somebody else, I need their permission. And then the second thing is I want to also have whoever's in that photo waive any compensation claims. What does this mean? Well, typically this is confined more to where you have individuals who are models and make money off their face. But there have been situations where a gym or a business has taken a photograph and they post it on Instagram and it blows up, makes the facility a lot of money. And then the client that's in the photo is like, I want a piece of that. They technically could ask for that because their face, their property right was used in furtherance, keywords here, in furtherance of your marketing activity. So basically, what is the bottom line easy way to do this? Get a model release, stick it into the documents that they use when they first come on, and you're good.
It's funny to talk about this. I was so naive when we were starting to, in the club that I worked with, that when we were starting to do the social media, the pictures, the videos, of how many people were very adamant. They did not want to be. And I would kind of be like, why? Like, what, again, I'm like, hey, right in front. I'm usually running the camera, my personality. I'm like, yeah, sure, take my picture. But the reasons why really, some people are like, hey, I didn't tell my boss I was leaving early to take this class. Hey, my husband doesn't know I'm a member here, whatever it may be. And I quickly got schooled on why, for many reasons, people did not want their picture taken, not just because they didn't think they were photogenic or whatever.
It's a good opportunity to kind of interact with your members, be like, hey, do you mind if I take a photo? Okay, great. And you're like, okay, it'll be up tonight. Share with your friends. You can use it as a free marketing tool, but definitely if you're doing things like before and after pictures, maybe, you have a trainer that takes someone's before picture. I just know where I was when I first started. And even now after the quarantine 30, I'm not sure I'd want my before picture shared, but I have an online presence, right? So I really don't want that shared. And so for me, I'd be fine as long as it's cropped. But if we had this conversation, great. But if I had a trainer that took the photos and I'm believing that they're being used for just us to look at and just for them to track my progress, I'm going to feel very betrayed. And when it comes to fitness stuff, and I think maybe more so for women, I don't know, but I know for me, it's a very vulnerable thing to get in front of someone and get trained and be physically out there, especially because I had let myself go for so long. You don't want to break down that trust. So you have the legal side of things, but then you also have the preservation of the relationship. And there's great trust when you're like with a trainer in a fitness facility. But yeah, so use it as a marketing opportunity to be able to, get the permission and then also ask them to share it. That's a great way. And I think it also depends on what type of fitness business you're in. Like I know I can think of a few of my clients off the bat who are like, we never have problems. And I'm like, yeah, it's because all your clients are ripped. Like they're lifting like 500 pounds. Of course they're happy with the photos shared. But a mom that may have just had a baby a couple months ago is going to feel very insecure. And she's not going to see it as, promotion of your gym. She's going to be nitpicking herself.
Yes. So true. Something that, like I said, lesson learned along the way for myself. So, all right, let's get to our last question. And it's about privacy. While every country has its own laws and rules around email and text marketing, what do you suggest is the best business practice on texting and email marketing?
I love this question. It's funny. I've been being asked this a lot on podcasts. Doesn't matter what industry that I'm speaking on lately. And I could have called it a couple years ago. So when the European Union put out GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation Act, back in 2017 or 16, I believe. It's the regulation of consumer privacy information, how it's tracked, how it's shared, etc. This past year in the United States, California became one of the first states to enact something very similar. Why this is important is because when you're doing business with consumers, so you're members of your club, their private information, as you guys have probably seen, we see all the memes and the jokes about how Facebook's listening and you'll get a retargeted ad like in 30 seconds, but it's a real thing. Like it's really happening. There's Facebook pixels, Google ad pixels, everything. I mean, even today, let me tell you, I was doing my own ads for Fit Legally and I hadn't been in really deep into Facebook ads until recently. And I was shocked at how I could drill down into people's lives and target. So to answer your question, consumer privacy laws are cracking down. In the US, there's only a couple states that require what's called a privacy policy document that outlines how you're tracking the information, what you're doing with it, how you're safeguarding it, etc. Now, that being said, I think everyone should adopt the policy of requiring that everyone opt in for all emails and texts. So as long as, like, say you have someone walks into your club, they sign up, put some language on that document they're filling out that says, yes, I gave you permission to text me. If you don't get permission for that, don't do it because you're going to be in violation, at least in the United States, of Federal Trade Commission laws, consumer protection. And I'm also one, I don't believe in selling of any private information, which the government does it all the time, but that's neither here nor there. So when it comes to email and text marketing, have a privacy policy in place. Easily put it on your website. It boosts the confidence of those that are going to give you their information. I want to know what you're going to do with it when I submit it to you because I don't want 500 emails about a protein powder from 500 unrelated companies when I asked about your personal training. So always get permission. Make sure you have good legal terms that are going to protect you. And then if you're in the United States or I guess in any country, check what the consumer protection laws require. Like, for example, under the GDPR, so if you're in the European Union or marketing into a country that's part of the EU, if someone reaches out to me, they can ask me, what information do you have about me? I'm legally bound to tell them, and then they could say, please delete it all. Now, there is a line with that. I do get to keep like transactional information, information that I'm legally required to keep. But for the most part, I have to get rid of it all. And so you need to know the documents you need in place, get the permission for the information, and then based on where you live and where you're advertising into, this is especially important if you're doing like online marketing, what the requirements are on you for those people's private information.
Get your pen ready now for Keep Me's Fit Bizpiration.
What are your 3 tips for being legally safe in 2021?
2021, you need to have one COVID waiver, because we're probably still going to be dealing with it. So making sure that your clients or your members are assuming the risk and you're protecting yourself. 2, we want to make sure that we have privacy policies in place. So whether you're getting information from a contact form, having online members, or having them opt into an email list, you want to let them know what you're doing with their private information, etc. And then also 3, we want to look at how we can limit our liability if we're doing online type of activities. So you want to check your waivers and make sure that you've added the language about accepting online services, as well as any language to help for that enhanced liability, because you're not going to be in person to be able to guide your members through the activities.
Keep Me, Smarter Member Retention. KeepMe.ai.
And now it's time to get back to the show. Well, Rachel, I think we are going to be all legally safe for 2021, not getting ourselves in trouble with the government. So thank you to your great advice. You had so much for our owners and operators. Thank you so much for coming on today's show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun. If you guys have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, where can they go to find some of this information? I know you have a lot of information that, again, our listeners would appreciate. Where can they go to find this?
You guys can find majority of this at fitlegally.com. So we have free fitness disclaimers that you can download from like medical, nutrition, physical, all of that, copy and paste for use in your business. We also have a legal fitness business document starter pack, kind of goes over actually some of the top things that we talked about today. We didn't plan it, but that works out really well. So you guys can check that out, because I get it. Like, starting a business is overwhelming, and then you have the whole fitness business aspect and the liability aspect. It can be overwhelming. And the entire goal of Fit Legally is really to help you with, you don't know what you don't know. And so I'm able to bring that from the athlete side of things, the business owner, and the lawyer. But like I said, if you guys have any questions, even after checking out our resources, just reach out. Myself or my team are more than happy to help you find what you need.
All right. And I'm going to contact you, but I'm going to contact you for swim lessons.
I'm holding you to it. We're going to do a relay.
Well, a big thank you to Rachel for all of her legal advice today and for coming on to the show. I mean, who doesn't love free legal advice? Now, if I can just make a recommendation, check out her website. It has a lot of great legal information for club owners. And if anything, it would also be a perfect resource center for those thinking about opening a business. Now let's stay tuned for a message from our podcast partner, Team Rockstar Fit.
Team Rockstar Fit is an award-winning mastermind team that helps fit pros lead happy and balanced lives. Get mentoring and support. Learn how to grow your business online with Beachbody. You can apply for a free consultation today at teamrockstarfit.com.
Quickfire 5.
Listen up, Fitness Business Podcast family, because I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Want to know what it is? Alan Leach, the CEO of the Westwood Clubs in Ireland, will be our guest next week. How exciting is that? Now, let's hear his answers from my Quick Fire 5 questions. FBP family, Alan Leach is our guest next week on our show. But before we have him come on our show, we've asked him a couple questions. Let's hear what he has to say. Hey, Alan, how are you?
Hello, Dory. Thank you very much for having me on your show. I'm such a fan. I really am.
Thanks. Well, I can't wait to hear what you have to say for your Quick Fire 5 questions. So let's get started. Your first one is, who inspires you and why?
I'm not so sure if anybody inspires me. If I was to pick one, and it's nothing to do with the fitness industry, it would be Daniel Day-Lewis. There you go.
Well, listen, it is all about you, so you can pick whoever you'd like to pick.
And the other one, if I was to pick one, because this is about marketing, I would pick Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason why he convinced the world that social media is about engagement so that we would engage with Facebook and he could sell all that information to the advertisers. There you go.
Smart man. Number 2, why do you do what you do?
Honestly, I just love it. I've been very, very lucky to sell and market what I've been into since I was 18 years of age. When it comes to sales or marketing, I love it because you do something and you see a result. That's it. It's competitive and you try and get better all the time and you see a good result or a bad result. That's why I love it.
Yeah, there is so much truth to that answer. And number 3, this is our fun one. If you were not doing what you are doing, what would you do, Alan?
I travel around the Greek islands. There you go.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. How about a book, a podcast, a blog, or Facebook group that you could maybe recommend for our listeners out there?
Dori, there's so many books that I've read. It's nearly impossible to pick one. The Wizard of Ads. The Wizard of Ads is one book. I think if you want a couple more, The Experience Economy is a great book. Positioning by Al Rees and Jack Trout, great book. All of these books are great books for anybody in the fitness industry. So there's 3 instead of 1.
Okay, I'll take it. That's why I love this segment. And finally, what will be an action item the FBP family will take away from your main interview next week?
It's this. Stop listening to everybody that tells you that sales and marketing has to change because of COVID. It doesn't have to change because of COVID. It's nonsense. You're either open or you're closed, but I have yet to be convinced sales or marketing has to change.
Well, awesome. And I can't wait to hear what you have to say in your episode next week. Thank you so much, Alan, and we look forward to talking to you.
Thank you, Dori. I'm looking forward as well.
Here is a message from our friends at Precor.
Tribe, if you haven't explored a functional training space for your gym, then now is the time. With Queenex Functional Training by Precor, there is a unit to fit every space. Plus, education is included to ensure that training is delivered with confidence. You need to jump online and check this out right now. Go to precor.com/fitness business podcast. Hi there, everyone, and welcome. Chantal here. Thank you for joining me for this week's throwback episode, when we take a little trip down memory lane and I share some of my all-time favorite episodes from the first 5 years of the show. This week's featured show is episode 160. It was called Find Your Why with author Peter Docker. Now, if you have ever read the Simon Sinek book called Start With Why, then this is a must-listen interview, because during the chat with Peter, we spoke about why it's important to understand why you do what you do. We chatted about the key points in the book, Find Your Why, and once you've identified what your why is, well, what's next? If you haven't yet heard that episode, then take a listen today. All you need to do is click the link in today's show notes or go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com and search for episode number 160. Happy listening.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for joining me for this week's show, and a reminder that all the resources and links for today's episode can be found at fbp.com. And a warm thank you to our founding partner, Active Management.
Hi FBP family, it's JT from Active Management, the founding partner of the Fitness Business Podcast. Thanks to the amazing technology at our fingertips, we can now work with clients all over the world. But right now, you can join the free online Active Management Facebook community. It's an amazing group of people just like you. Sure, I share weekly resources, but it's the power of the community that you will experience that will make this your go-to Facebook group. Remember, it's free, fun, and inspirational. Go to facebook.com/groups/Active Management Community.
What you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.